Jeff Slauson here from 19 News Now at the 19 News Digital Desk. We are going to be bringing you a conversation that we had earlier today with Representative Weinstein, Assemblyman in the state of Ohio here. He has proposed a bill along with, he's a Democratic lawmaker, along with a Republican lawmaker, about the potential for legalizing marijuana here in the state of Ohio. This could be a very big initiative. This is the second straight year that he has sponsored a bill that would look to fully legalize marijuana. It's got quite a few parts to it. We'll let him kind of explain you through exactly what this would do.
Yeah, so I offered the first marijuana legalization bill in Ohio history, last General Assembly, and my friend and colleague Jamie Callender on the other side of the aisle followed up with his version. And this time we decided to join forces. I think it's symbolic of and representative of where Ohioans are on this issue, because there is truly bipartisan support for legalization. It's an idea whose time has come. That's time has come. So we thought it was we should reflect that in the sponsorship of the bill, and I'm really thankful that we now have worked together to merge those two into a legalization, decriminalization, home grow, record expungement, full legalization bill that we're working together.
So the difference between this year and last year, and I know, we've talked about this before, there's been support on both sides. It's just that it's not been necessarily together here. The main difference you would say is that you have support from both sides of the aisle here when it comes to this specific bill?
Yeah, I mean, we agree. We always, I think, agreed on the basics, which is that we need to legalize, we need to expunge nonviolent, low-level marijuana records to ease our judicial system in every aspect. We agreed that folks should be able to safely grow these plants in their homes, and that folks should be able to participate in the economic benefits of the industry, particularly those communities and those individuals that have been excluded from its economic benefits in the past. So I'm really happy with the compromise we came up with. I think it basically checks a lot of boxes in terms of the benefits that legalization can bring to Ohio.
Let's start with the offenders part, and then I want to get into the economic factor with this as well. For people out there who potentially do have something like that in the record, how would it work if this does pass?
Yeah, if you have a conviction for a low-level, nonviolent marijuana possession, that record would be expunged. So it is exclusive to those records. But we think that our criminal justice system, as overtaxed as it is in many ways, doesn't need to take this burden on, that it's ultimately become a burden on law enforcement, and that it's time to recognize the reality and catch up to where Ohioans are on the issue, and just legalize and expunge and move forward with a clean slate.
How much does the fact that nearby states, particularly Michigan, them having their own in place? I mean, I don't know if you've driven to Detroit recently, but I drove there for a game a couple of months ago, and there are tons of signs there basically welcoming Ohioans in to spend money on marijuana-related products, things like that. I mean, how much does that actually play into a factor into trying to get something like this passed to bring that money back into the state?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's indicative of where the country has gone, right? And the country has moved forward on this issue by and large. We're at a tipping point where the majority of Americans live in decriminalized or fully legalized states, and now that's on our doorstep, right? And of course, we never want to fall behind that state of up north for any reason, but in particular. I mean, a lot of Ohioans are going north of the border and taking their dollars and tax revenue with them. In Ohio, we have had a really successful medical program. We've taken a cautious approach, which I think is smart, but now we can look at many, many different states from across the country and how their programs have rolled out. There's a lot of marijuana puns, that's one of them. So how those programs have rolled out nationwide, and look at the best practices, what has worked, what hasn't, and integrate those into our bill. And that's what we did. We took the best from across the nation and saw how legalization impacted those states. And now we've got to act. I mean, we are at real risk of falling behind at this point.
Which states in particular did you look at, and which ones did you kind of steal from? Or not steal, but get inspiration from. Excuse me.
Yeah. Washington, Colorado, and Michigan were three states that that have taken significant steps in recent years and really reaped a lot of the economic benefits from it. So there were aspects of all three of those. And then really we also just looked at what's been working in our own medical program here within the state. So we were able to kind of analyze and see that this program was expanding, that it was successful, that we were seeing increased demand and a proliferation of small businesses, but ultimately a lot of fixes that needed to be accomplished through legalization.
Now, I don't want to say that this is a one-to-one comparison here, but we have seen the success of gambling, sports gambling, mobile gambling in the state with the amount of money that it is actually bringing into education and things like that. Does something like that also show that there is a potential to bring these funds into the state? I mean, because I know there's a portion of this bill that very clearly lays out where this money would go. I mean, does that show you some ways that this can be used for good as well as far as funding?
Yeah, it's a great model if you look at sports betting, but also you can look at legalization for marijuana across the country, and it has generated tens of millions to billions of dollars per year. In the case of the state of Washington, over $1 billion a year. And what Rep. Callender and I have done is ensured that those funds will go right back into the communities that are hosting those dispensaries or grow locations. So our point of this was to reinvest directly in the communities that are going to be the centers of gravity for the economic growth. So they kind of get a double whammy in a good way, right? They get the direct economic benefits, and then they get the revenues associated with it. And that's critical. I was on city council before I was a state rep, and I have a significant bias, as I think most should, toward local government. And the more funds that we're able to target and provide to those local governments, the stronger those communities will be. And they'll have the safety forces, the public schools, the parks, the infrastructure, the safety, everything to grow from the bottom up. And I think that's a great approach.
Right. It's not just like the money's going into a fund that is in Columbus and under lock and key. This is money that can actually be used.
Right. Yeah. Our goal was for Ohioans to see the impacts of the industry, and in particular, those communities that open up to this industry would reap the benefits.
Just a couple of more questions here for you. First, let's talk timeline. I know it was just introduced. You mentioned this is the second time now, but where are we in this, and where are you hoping to be by the time you go on break? Or I don't know if break's already in full swing. And I thought it was right. You go on break in a week or two?
A couple weeks out. We got to get through the budget first, and that's going to be dramatic. But we have introduced the bill. It has been referred to the Finance Committee. We're hopeful for an initial hearing before we do go on our summer break, but a lot of what we're going to be working on over the next couple of weeks is the budget, and there is a chance that some form of expansion on the marijuana side is included in the budget. We'll see how that plays out. If not, we're going to be pushing hard to get this through the committee process this fall. As I've said, the legislature needs to catch up to where Ohioans are on the issue. This is one of a relatively few number of issues that really pull well and draw support from all sides of the aisle, and folks who frankly really aren't engaged in the political process but support this. And I think that we owe it to them to move this forward.
If this does reach the point where it is prepared to be voted on and then ultimately is signed off, it would need to be voted on by the public, right? Like this would need to go ahead to a November election. Is that right?
So no, this is legislation. There is a separate ballot initiative I'm aware of. I'm not involved with, but there is a ballot initiative that could take this, if it gets enough signatures and gets through the process, could take this directly to the voters. I would certainly, at a high level, be supportive of that. Oh, another marijuana pun. Sorry.
You should have done more during this interview, for being honest.
It's Friday, I know. As it rolls out, no, I am very supportive of the concept of legalization, and I think that the ballot initiative could compel the legislature to act on our bill, and let it go through the legislative process, which is a little bit more of a scalpel versus the sledgehammer of a.
So we have all this information available on our website right now, cleveland19.com. We also break this down on 19 News at 10 and 11. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson, 19 News. Have a great night. Much more to come, both on air and online.
19 News, now streaming on Samsung Smart TV. Search for channel 1035.